I'm 83, and what I'm about to tell you will hurt to hear, but it may save you decades of regret. My name is Walter Bennett, and if you're watching this with a busy mind and a full calendar, I want you to know something gently and honestly. I was you. I believed that if I just worked a little harder, earned a little more, climbed a little higher, I would finally feel safe. I thought money would quiet the fear in my chest. It didn't. Time is running out for me now. I can feel it when I lace my shoes and my fingers don't quite obey. I can feel it when winter settles into my joints and every step sounds louder than it used to. But if my mistakes can spare you even a fraction of the loneliness I carried for half a lifetime, then this old heart of mine will have done something right. There was one ordinary afternoon that changed everything. Not a dramatic explosion, not a movie scene, just a quiet moment that split my life into before and after. And before I tell you about it, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not productive, not impressive, but alive. I used to be a man people admired. By 45, I owned a construction company in Portland with my name on the trucks. I wore crisp shirts and polished shoes. I carried a leather briefcase that smelled like coffee and ambition. People stood a little straighter when I walked into a room. My wife Margaret would stand beside me at company dinners in her blue silk dress, her hand resting lightly on my arm while I told the same story about starting with nothing. Everyone laughed at the right places, and inside I felt empty. Busy, but empty. I was always tired, always rushing, always promising myself that next year would be different. I told myself I was doing it for my family, but the truth was harder to admit. I was doing it for the applause, for the nods of approval, for the feeling of being important. The defining moment came on a rainy Tuesday in October, 14 years ago. I remember the smell of wet leaves on the sidewalk and the way my shoes squeaked on the tile as the nurse pushed my wheelchair down the hospital corridor. I had collapsed in my office that morning, heart attack. One moment I was arguing about a budget spreadsheet. The next I was staring at a ceiling tile with a tiny crack shaped like a lightning bolt, wondering if this was the last thing I would ever see. Before that day, my life looked impressive on paper. But let me show you what it really looked like. I missed my daughter Emily's piano recital because a client couldn't wait. I forgot my son Daniel's 10th birthday until Margaret left a voicemail that sounded like a stranger speaking. I ate more dinners alone in hotel rooms than I ever ate at my own table. One night, I came home at midnight, loosened my tie, and found Margaret asleep on the couch with a cold plate of pot roast beside her. She had waited. I stepped over her shoes and went straight to bed. I didn't even kiss her forehead. That moment still burns. The old life was a blur of airports, boardrooms, and promises of someday. Someday we'll travel. Someday I'll slow down. Someday I'll be present. But someday kept moving farther away. The irony still makes me shake my head. The bigger my bank account grew, the smaller my life felt. Then came the heart attack, the beeping machines, the sharp smell of disinfectant, the soft footsteps of nurses at night. Margaret sat beside my bed holding my hand like it was something fragile she might lose. Her eyes were red, not just from crying, from years of being unseen. That night I couldn't sleep. I listened to the rhythm of my heart on the monitor and thought, is this it? Is this what I spent my life building? A number on a screen and a woman who feels like a stranger? That was the moment I understood something terrifying. I had been rich and poor at the same time.
Poor in presence, poor in courage, poor in love. When the doctor came in the next morning, he spoke softly, like you do when words carry weight. "You're lucky, Walter," he said. "Most men don't get a warning." A warning. That word followed me home. It echoed in the hallway of our house. It sat with me at the kitchen table. It followed me into the quiet hours of the night. And slowly, painfully, it began to change me. That hospital room taught me 3 habits that made me happier than money ever did. Not all at once, not neatly, but one brave, awkward step at a time. The first habit was choosing connection over comfort. 2 months after I came home, I stood on my porch, holding a mug of coffee, staring at my neighbor Harold's door. We had lived next to each other for 12 years and never shared more than a polite wave. My chest felt tight. I almost went back inside. Then I knocked. Harold opened the door, wearing a faded flannel shirt and a surprised smile. "Walter, everything all right?" I swallowed and said, "Would you like to have coffee with me?" We sat at his tiny kitchen table for 3 hours. He told me about his late wife, Ruth, and how he still set out 2 mugs every morning without thinking. I told him I was afraid of dying without ever truly living. We laughed. We cried. And I walked home lighter than I had felt in decades. Connection isn't convenient. It's uncomfortable. It requires courage. But it heals what money cannot touch. The second habit was learning to tell the truth, even when my voice shook. One evening, I sat across from Margaret at the kitchen table, the same table I had ignored for decades. My hands were trembling so badly I had to wrap them around a mug just to keep them still. "I'm sorry," I said. "I made you feel alone in our own marriage." She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger, and then she cried. Not angry tears, relieved tears. And for the first time in 40 years, we talked like 2 human beings instead of 2 tired survivors. We talked about her loneliness, my fear, the dreams we buried. Truth did not break us. Truth rebuilt us. The third habit was presence. Real presence. Not my phone, not my schedule, just me and the moment in front of me. I learned it the afternoon my grandson Leo tugged my sleeve in the park. "Grandpa," he said, holding up a dandelion. "This is a wish flower." I knelt down in the grass and listened like it was the most important meeting of my life. Because it was. We blew the seeds into the wind together. And something inside me finally exhaled. Here is the part that is hard to say out loud. I regret not telling my father I loved him before he died in that quiet nursing home in Spokane. I regret the bedtime stories I skipped, the apologies I delayed, the hugs I rushed. I regret believing I had time. There are faces that still visit me at night. My mother, standing at the sink, wiping her hands on a towel, waiting for me to notice her. Emily, sitting on the front steps, in her recital dress, clutching her sheet music. Daniel pretending not to care that I wasn't there. Love is patient, but time is not. Something beautiful happened when I chose to change. Margaret and I began walking the river trail every morning, even when the air was cold and our breath made little clouds. We learned each other again. Emily started calling just to talk, not for advice, just to share her day. Daniel brought his kids over for Sunday pancakes, and flour covered the counter like fresh snow. Peace slowly replaced fear. One evening last spring, as the sun poured through this very window, Margaret rested her head on my shoulder and said, "You're finally here." That sentence was worth more than every dollar I ever earned. And then came the moment that tied everything together. The moment that showed me what these 3 habits had truly given me. Last winter, during a heavy snowstorm, the power went out. The house was silent, except for the ticking of the old clock and the wind brushing the windows. We lit candles and sat close on the couch under one blanket. Margaret squeezed my hand and said, "I'm not afraid anymore." Neither was I. That is what happiness feels like. Not excitement, not success. Peace. If you remember nothing else from this old man, remember this. Connection beats comfort. Truth beats pretending. Presence beats pressure. You do not need a heart attack to wake up. You do not need to lose everything to start living. Look at the people you love. Really look at them. Who have you been meaning to call? What words have you been saving for later? Later is a fragile promise. One day you will sit where I'm sitting, by a quiet window, holding a small framed photo, and you will count your true wealth. It will not be in dollars. It will be in moments, in names, in love. I'm 83. These 3 habits made me happier than money ever could. And it is not too late for you. Not yet. So go. Choose connection. Speak the truth. Be present. And build the life you will be grateful for when your hair is white and your hands are slow. I'll be cheering for you from this old armchair by the window. Pause.